Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Sean Callan.
Here.
Julie Chetney.
Here.
Tom Chapa. Here. Sean Onmont. Here. Dave Crisafulli.
Here.
Tim Rice.
Here.
Jennifer Salazzo.
Here.
And Student Representative Leah Norton.
Here.
Great. If everyone could please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the first thing we have up tonight is a special recognition for Sophia Sorrell, recently elected to the New York State Marching Band, and Dr. Kilmer will do the presentation.
Come on up. So we're here to congratulate Sophia Sorrell. She has been selected for the New York State Marching Band. It's a statewide honor ensemble for motivated high school and college marching band and color guard students. The New York State Marching Band is a selective band that brings together students from across schools across New York State. The goal is to give students the chance to perform at the highest level, meet other band and guard members from around the state, and bring those skills and experiences back to their home program. So it's a great honor for Sophia, and of course a great honor for her to represent Oswego for the New York State Marching Band. Can't wait to see what's next, so congratulations. I got it right here. Again, congratulations. Best of luck to you. Oh, picture, yes.
Mr. President, I move to change our order of business and have the report of the student representative move from 7 to 4.
Okay. We're going to move the student representative from number 7, item 7 to item 4. Can I get a second, please? Thank you very much, Dave. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Leah, the floor is yours.
Thank you. First, I want to say congratulations to all the students who got the Seal of Biliteracy recently. I've talked to a lot of them, and it was not easy work, but they did it, and they were the first in Oswego High School, so that's really awesome for them. Then last night, there were new NHS students inducted. This meant that they kept a GPA of 90 and above, and they got 20-plus hours of community service to get in. So congratulations to them. The Drama Club Spring production came to a close this past weekend, so congrats to all of them. It was the cast and crew of All in the Timing. It was a great show, so kudos to them. Then congrats to all the elementary students who went to All County this weekend. It was hosted at Sandy Creek, so good job. And then good luck to all student athletes tonight, specifically the softball girls had their senior night, so hopefully they all do well, and that's it.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And now at this time, we'd like to open the public hearing on the budget for 2026-27, the proposed budget. And I will turn it over to Dr. Kilmer for the presentation.
Okay, so today is our official budget hearing. We have talked about budget consistently over the last few months. And so part of the requirement under New York State is to have an open and public hearing so that our community can, once again, hear about the budget development, and then bring forth any comments. We didn't have anyone sign up today, but just because someone didn't sign up today, if they have a question or comment, they can reach out to myself, they can reach out to Mr. Colucci, of course they can reach out to board members. There's information on the website. We have budget books available at all of our buildings for people to see every detail. There's a great deal of information available on the website as well. And budget newsletter should be in everyone's mailboxes next week. So there's more, again, information coming. So again, in budget development, at the root of everything that we do in Oswego City School District is our mission, vision, and core values. And so the budget is a financial representation of that mission, vision, and core values. We've talked about the budget guidelines in great detail and our focus on trying to provide flexibility, meeting the needs of our students, providing opportunity to meet short-term and long-term obligations, focusing on what's going on in the state, at the local level, at the national level, trying to ensure that our budget is developed in a way that meets the needs of this community in these uncertain times and what may come in the future. So again, the general timeline, we start this conversation very, very early. So we close out a budget year as of June 30th. There are audits that are completed for that close of that budget year. And then we are starting to think about budget development in the fall. We hear from the executive, typically in January, and then we hope to have a budget from New York State by April 1st. I'm speaking to you today on May 5th, and we still do not have a New York State budget. So there's still a lot of projection. There's still a lot of unanswered questions. However, there have been some signs of positive movement, so I am optimistic that there will be some level of agreement soon and that we'll learn more. We have to have, again, lots of communication with our community to make sure they are well informed so that they can make an educated decision on that budget when we go to vote on May 19th. So we've talked about this in detail. We've talked about this in summary. So I'll go through the three parts, similar to what we did at the last meeting. Our administrative budget year to budget year, shows about a $66,000 decrease budget year to budget year. Again, I think I pointed this out last time, that the outlier here, you'll see that $423,000, that's the tax cert that we had in 25, 26 that was actually paid out of that tax cert reserve, which is what it's ultimately there for. So that shows a much larger decrease than what we might typically have. Outside of that, we see typical changes year to year. We did eliminate a district level administrative position. I'll come back to that a little bit later, but that's also indicated in this as well. Program budget year to budget year. When we're looking at program, we see really what are the typical contractual increases from year to year. So salaries, benefits. We haven't really seen an expansion of program in this particular budget year, but again, we've tried to maintain program. And so the majority of these changes are directly related to contractual changes, or you'll see in the one, a slight enrollment fluctuation. Again, continuing in program budget from year to year, we are looking at, for benefits, approximately a 10% is what we've budgeted, budget year to budget year, when we're looking at the total expenditures when it comes to our benefits, which is about that $2.1 million. So when we're looking at the program budget, the largest portion of our budget, that's about a $3.9 million change budget year to budget year. And then capital. Capital, we are going from about a 14.9 or just under 15 million to about a 16.3. One of the largest changes that I think that you'll notice is that estimated contractual increases, including utilities. Now, one thing I will make a note of, that number was estimated months ago, right? That's what we put into place. Now, the world climate has changed a little bit, right? And will continue to change. So that is always going to be an estimate when we're talking about trying to project what our utilities might look like year to year. But again, it was conservative to try to help mitigate if we saw large variations ultimately in that. You will notice the debt service. That debt service does increase. Remember, when we're talking about our capital projects, all of our capital projects will ultimately result in additional debt service. But remember, building aid comes into play that offsets that, right? And so we talk a lot about that, and I'll come back to that in the frequently asked questions piece. So when we're looking at our three-part budget, and this is, again, a mandate by New York State that states, listen, every district must present their budget in a three-part budget so you can compare district to district, right? We don't get to create the silos in which those three parts are. The state creates that for us and makes it crystal clear. But I've talked a lot about proportionality of our budget. Where is the majority of our money going? Well, it needs to go directly to students. And that's really ultimately within that program piece. We've talked about proportionality where we want to be around 75, 15, and 10. Well, we're doing better than that. So about 77% of our budget is dedicated directly to program, about 9% in admin, and then about 13% is capital for the 26-27 proposed budget. And then you can see the change right next to it with the 25-26. Historically, long before I arrived, the district was doing this work, right? Prioritizing program, ensuring that the focus of the budget was on program and meeting the needs of our students. Within this budget, it wasn't a simple rollover, meaning we had to take a very close look at our budget to identify where are there areas where we can find savings. In our initial calculations, we were looking at a more significant gap, budget year to budget year, meaning what we anticipated in revenue and what our appropriation estimates might be. And so we looked hard to try to find savings without having a negative impact on program. And so in this budget, there is approximately $1.3 million in cuts. Now these cuts, while there, they still maintain program. And these cuts, for the most part, are all through attrition, meaning resignations and retirements. We do have 2 cuts that were specifically due to enrollment. So there were 2 individuals who at the end of this year were let go because of enrollment. All other positions will be reduced as a result of, again, retirements, resignations. We did eliminate the Director of Accountability and Improvement when Mr. Morgan shifted from that role to the role of Executive Director of Personnel. We looked at that position, looked for opportunities to move some of those responsibilities to others within the administrative unit, and so we were able to absorb that position. We did create the Director of Counseling and Student Support position this year. However, that position is not within the general fund and is funded entirely through grant funding. Okay, so you won't find that within the budget when it is ultimately grant funded. And something that we've been talking about the last couple of years is our use of BOCE services. BOCES is a cooperative service that all districts participate. One of the benefits of using a BOCE service is that we also get aid generated on our use. So while there is a cost associated to working with BOCES, that cost generates additional aid in the following year. And so we've been looking very closely over the last 3 years of how are we utilizing BOCE services? Are we using all that we could? Are there more efficient ways for us to use that? Again, try and provide the best services for our students while also looking for opportunities to generate aid for the district. So that brings us to revenue. So our revenue, for the most part, is pretty straightforward and we don't have control over. So the pilots, that's about 26 million. As you remember, that pilot, our largest pilot with the nuclear plants, was negotiated a couple of years ago. We're just finishing is this year 2 or is this year? This is year 2, thank you. So we have another 2 years before we will negotiate, again, that was a 4-year pilot. Foundation aid, that is the biggest bucket of aid, of state aid for the Oswego City School District and actually most school districts. Foundation aid, we have seen over the last few years some really significant increases budget year to budget year, where in some years we might have seen a $2 million, maybe a $3 million change budget year to budget year. In the executive budget, that change was about a $400,000, it was 1%, okay? The legislative budget proposal, both the Assembly and the Senate, came out with a 2%. That's about, again, I'm approximating around $800,000. So we're talking about a pretty big difference in changing of foundation aid. I expect us to continue in that pattern in the future. And so this isn't just a one-year issue. My assumption is going to be this is going to be an ongoing issue for all districts, that we're not going to be able to rely on significant increases in foundation aid in the future. Building aid, we will continue to see that increase. Remember, building aid is generated based on our capital projects. So we're doing a lot of work now, so we will continue to see building aid grow. But again, remember, debt service will also grow with that because the building aid is helping to pay ultimately for that, okay? Other aid, there's high cost aid, there's transportation aid, there's lots of other aid categories. But again, that's about $13.5 million. Other revenue, interests, those types of things within the district is about $1.9 million. So that's about $90 million. When we look at the tax levy, we have to do a tax cap calculation every single year. There are some exclusions. There are quite a few different pieces within that calculation. When completed this year, our levy limit was 5.05%. And we recognized from the get-go that was an unreasonable ask for our community, right? Even if we could ask for that, we didn't feel it was reasonable. So then the question really comes down to is how do we balance what we need versus our short-term plus our long-term financial picture, and then with what we have ultimately in reserves. And so the decision was made to go out with a 2.9% tax levy increase budget year to budget year. And to bring that number down as far as we could, you authorized us to use about $2.7 million in reserve and fund balance. Remember, uses of reserve and fund balance are one-shot sources of revenue. They don't come back again the following year. So we have to be thoughtful about when and how we utilize those reserves. And so that's the revenue for projections for the 26-27 school year. We've talked about this before. The district has continually looked for ways to try to keep the levy as low as possible. You'll often notice that the levy stays below inflation or maybe meets inflation. And so the district has been, and the board specifically, have been good stewards in trying to support programming while trying to keep taxes as low as possible. And our tax levy proportionality to budget continues. We continue to see the largest burden of our budget on aid factors, right? So we're trying to mitigate that impact on the levy as much as possible. Some of the frequently asked questions, we've talked about this in the past as well. People might ask the question, why are we doing capital projects when we're concerned about long-term fiscal health, when we're concerned about budget year to budget year? When we think about capital projects, if we're planning them thoughtfully, our hope is that capital projects can end up being budget neutral. Meaning, while you'll see changes in the budget as a result of them, they don't have a negative impact. As we are borrowing to do work, we're paying ultimately for that through the building aid generated for doing the work. All projects, let's just use the 24 project that we're working on right now, that was authorized by our voters, that project had a 0% tax increase associated with it. Why? Because the district had saved. There was capital reserve used specific to pay for the community portion of that project. We have a 26 project in the long-range plan. That project has capital reserve already set aside to pay for the community portion. So your hope is that it's going to remain neutral. There's also a benefit to the district when we're doing projects. We're improving infrastructure. We're addressing maintenance issues, right? These are all general costs that ultimately have to be considered when developing a budget. By improving facilities, your hope is you're decreasing, in some cases, utility costs, right? We've improved boilers in a number of spaces. We're improving HVAC systems in a number of spaces. More efficient systems means hopefully lower energy costs. So there is a benefit for that as well. And then the question, and I think this is a question that everyone should be asking, and it's something that we should be ready to answer. Why not use more reserves? We have a limited number. The board, previous boards have done an excellent job of understanding the nature of school finances and the uncertainty, and created a savings account to address the situation that we're in today and potentially in the future. And so when we develop a budget and we utilize reserves, we're not only thinking about the budget we're planning for in the following year, but we're also thinking, how can we continue to utilize or have reserve funds available for us for the next 5 years, for the next 8 years? So we should be thinking about not only the immediate future, but also long range as well. And so it's all about short-term and long-range fiscal planning. Remember, there are some long-range budget considerations that we've talked about. The executive budget and the governor and the legislative have agreed with the governor. Full day UPK for all 4-year-olds by 28-29. We fully expect that. They will increase funding from the state to try to make this happen, but we do not anticipate it will cover all the costs associated. So the district will have to find ways to make this happen. And then zero-emission buses continue to be a concern, both facility upgrades, but also when we're talking about the maintenance costs and, of course, the purchasing of these buses. As I stated before, Senator Chris Ryan has introduced legislation to put a pause on that statewide, but also specifically for Oswego County because our vicinity to a nuclear power plant and our obligations under FEMA radiological emergency plans. And so there's a lot more to come, and I expect more to come on this issue in the near future. We again do have a capital IL-8 project. It remains at Riley. The last 2 years we've been at Riley doing doors. This, we should hopefully almost finish all those exterior doors with this third project. So again, we're sticking with trying to finish up some of that work at Riley. Well, what happens on May 19th if the budget fails, if the budget does not pass? The Board of Education has some choices. The board can make a decision, we're going to put the same budget out again and we're going to do a revote. Exactly the same, no changes. They can come back and say, okay, we're going to make some tweaks. And they can put that budget out for vote. Or the board can adopt a contingency. If we go out to vote a second time and it's voted down a second time, it's an automatic contingency. A contingency budget is the most restrictive form of budget, right? It eliminates any level of tax increase. It also restricts the types of services that we might be able to provide, meaning community use of school facilities, certain types of transfer to capital items come out, non-health or safety or facility-related equipment kind of goes out. So there are some additional restrictions in a contingency budget as well. But then it's also how do we make up for that loss of revenue? And often means a restriction in program or restriction in additional costs. So again, the fast facts. This budget preserves all programming and all services for our students, both academic and extracurricular, remains balanced or remains below the property tax cap. Remember, the cap is a little over 5%. We are asking our community for a 2.9% change. We continue to prioritize safety and security, continue to invest in facility upgrades, and it's focused on our short-term and long-term fiscal health. The propositions remain the same. Budget vote, Board of Education, there are 3 open seats this year. Purchase of transportation vehicles. We've talked about this annually. Our annual plan is to replace 9 buses every year with state aid, and then the trade-in value of our buses, it ends up being almost a wash, relatively low cost to the district. And that doesn't even take into consideration the decrease in the amount of maintenance costs by maintaining a newer fleet, right? The longer we keep our buses, the increase that we have in generalized maintenance costs. We are fortunate that we have excellent aid ratio when it comes to transportation here in Oswego City School District. Not every district has that level of aid. And then we always have the public library levy associated with that as well. Budget vote is May 19th, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. As I said, all that information is in the budget newsletter. It should hit mailboxes next week. I do hope people take a really close look. And if they have questions, they give us a call. You go to our website, oswego.org. There's a big banner right at the very top. Click on it. It'll bring you to this page. There are budget materials available for you there as well. Questions from the board?
Anyone? Go ahead.
I
Sorry,
just have a
Julie.
question, Ray. Could you just speak to the positions that were reduced by attrition? I understand the 2 that were eliminated, but the 19 or 20 positions that were...
We have 18 additional positions.
Okay.
So we have, right now there are 10 TA positions,
Okay.
teaching assistants. We have ENL, a counselor, some elementary positions, a math coach, a secondary social studies position.
And to your statement that it's not going to affect services for students, that those positions were eliminated? Is it, or was other parts of the workforce placed in those roles? If we have TAs that are in classrooms right now that are providing that support to students.
So this is if we go back to the 24-25 budget year, so let's go back a couple of years. The district, in my presentation to you all, we had to assume a significant number of positions that were actually created through COVID federal funds. The intention of those funds was never to hire staff. They were temporary funds. Everyone knew they were temporary funds. But at the time, the decision was made to make some hires. When I came on board, those funds were ending. And so we were looking at, okay, can we try to maintain some of these positions? These are not positions that are mandated. These are not positions, let's just talk about TAs, for instance. TA positions that are directly related to special education services are mandated. I don't get to cut those. If a student's IEP or 504 states that they need services, they get services. That's not a budget decision, right? So then we're looking at, are there optional positions or positions where it was wonderful to have as an extra resource, but now we're at a point in time where we can't necessarily afford to maintain those. Similarly, we're looking at closer and closer just general enrollment trends. So when we're looking at class size, we want to try to maintain general class size. However, when we're seeing decreases or smaller numbers in certain areas, and we can continue to deliver the same program with reduction through retirement or resignation, that's an opportunity for us to try to capture that savings versus waiting until we're in crisis and then we're making true cuts where people are losing their jobs.
Right. Okay, thanks.
You bet.
Anyone else? Any questions? No. Thank you, Ray. Appreciate it. And there's no one for public comment, so we will, at this time, close the public hearing on the budget presentation for 2026-27. And there's no floor to the public for the regular meeting as well. So we'll move on to acknowledgements. Item number 6 with Julie Chetney.
Okay, we'll start with Riley School. Riley Elementary Kid Garden is officially underway. This year, we've broken ground, prepared our beds, and begun cultivating our soil. Our kindergarten classes lent a helping hand as they celebrated Earth Day, getting everything ready for a season of growth and learning. Our first graders proudly led this month's community gathering, celebrating classmates who earned the Integrity Award. Their leadership and enthusiasm made a meaningful celebration of doing the right thing. Riley's 5th and 6th graders wowed the audience with their fantastic performance of Annie. A huge thank you to Sierra Winhausen and our dedicated Riley faculty and staff for bringing this memorable production. Also at Riley, 2nd graders of Mrs. Valence's class put their skills to the test, playing Beat the Clock as they practiced their math facts with speed, focus, and excitement. 4th graders in Mrs. Conaway's class dove into history with a lively and heated debate while learning about the French and Indian War, bringing the past to life through thoughtful discussion and teamwork. At Fitzhugh Park School, it's Teacher Appreciation Week. This week, they celebrated Teacher Appreciation Week. The Fitzhugh Park School teachers' dedication, teamwork, and commitment to creating a safe, warm, and engaging learning environment for our children truly makes a difference. At Kingsford Park School, the kindergarten celebrated the marriage of Mr. Q and Miss U in a playful ceremony where teachers officiated the wedding as well as strengthened students' knowledge of their digraph sounds. Combining literacy and fun into an afternoon, students created puppets and learned some special songs related to Q and U and all the words they can make. Students were able to bring a returnable gift or make a card to the couple, of course, something that begins with QU. The couple received quilts, toy queens, and quarters. Better together, Mr. and Mrs. QU. Long-standing tradition at Kingsford, I'll add. At Minetto, our Minetto School Council sponsored a donation drive that benefited the Oswego Animal Shelter. Students collected food, litter, toys, treats, and donations to help these furry friends. And at the middle school, we're excited to celebrate our high honor roll and honor roll students for the 3rd quarter. We are really excited to celebrate our Principals Award winners. These students showed significant growth in the 3rd quarter. Many students went from failing to passing, and some increased their overall averages by 30 points. Many of the students listed participated in our after-school academic support program. We are proud of these students for their hard work and success. And at the high school, students interested in a manufacturing career had the opportunity to participate in a hands-on tour of the Cayuga Community College facilities. Students learned about opportunities in potential careers and internships with students and professionals. The Oswego Owl's Head NHS chapter recently inducted 39 new members. Families and new members celebrated the evening in the OHS Theater on Monday evening. Congrats to all those students.
And that's it. Excellent. Thank you, Julie. We'll move on to Board of Education. We have one item under there, A, for the resolution to appoint the chief election inspectors for the May 19th annual budget vote and Board of Education elections. Can I get a motion, please?
Move it.
Thank you, Tim. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Julie. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Superintendent's report, I think we, yes?
No, I've just a couple of real quick things. One, Julie actually just mentioned it, but it is Teacher Appreciation Week. If you haven't done so already, please reach out to your favorite teacher, your favorite child's teacher, your teacher from the past, and just let them know how much you appreciate their work, their effort. They are asked to do so much every single day, and it's only 1 week, and they deserve so much more. But it really is important that we let our educators know how important they are, the difference they've made in their lives. They don't get to hear it necessarily every day, even though they know that ultimately in their hearts. But it's nice for people to try to reach out. Our work is moving along on our capital projects, both in the 2018 project and the 2024 project. Library has again been shut down for a little bit more than a month now here in the high school. Pretty much all demolition is complete in that space. One of our gyms, the formerly known as the new gym, is shut down, and they have started to work in that space as well. Right across the street from the high school right now, there's significant site work started there to get ready for new tennis courts, the new bus loop, new playground. So we are starting to see more and more work, and it's going to be an amazing transformation when we come back next fall, even though there'll be still quite a bit of work to be done. But I hope people are super excited about that. And then the last thing, I need to acknowledge, our incident last week with our transportation department, and specifically one bus driver who was charged with driving under the influence. When something like that happens, it shakes the core level of trust in a community. We are asked to take care of, in loco parentis, thousands of children, and parents hand over their children to us every day, and we should take that so seriously and so to heart. And so for anything to happen that would make a parent question or wonder is so upsetting. Upsetting for me as a father, upsetting as me as superintendent, upsetting as an educator. And I think every staff member in this community has felt that. As I communicated in my letter to the community on Friday, our job now is to do everything in our power to make sure that nothing like that can ever happen again. And so we are going to be bringing in outside third parties just to examine every aspect of our process to help us review, to ensure that we, learn from this, but more importantly, ensure that we have best practices in place to let our community know that we are going to do everything in our power to make sure something like this doesn't happen again. That's it.
Thank you, Ray. I'm not speaking for the board, but for myself. I appreciate all the communication you've had with the community, and we support that position as well as a board, strongly. So now we move on to committee discussions. I think we have one only.
I have a short facilities, because he does, Sean, he steals all your thunder. So I'm going to skip
Was
through
all
and try
warmed up,
to,
ready to go, and Ray does it again.
try to figure out what he didn't cover. The capital project, Phase 4A, the work at the middle school. we're still waiting on more consistent temperatures to get that final surface on there. Buck Boulevard project, they're working with the city on some discovery of utility work that's running under it. And that's progressing. Capital project, which I don't think you covered. Phase 1 at the transportation, fire detection and mechanical work continues, and generator install should be starting pretty quick. Cover the library. The EPC basically is down to punch list work and still working through an issue with gas pressures at Riley School. And 2026 capital project, we're still in discovery and planning stages on that. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Tim. Excellent. So our next up will be our consent agenda. If I could get a motion to accept the consent agenda. Thank you, Tim. Can I second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Sean. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. And now to personnel, if without objection, to accept items A through K for personnel. Can I get a motion, please?
I'll make it.
Thank you, David. Can I second? Thank you, Jen. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. And down to finance, I would lump or group together items A and B. If I can get a motion for A and B, the establishment of 2 scholarships.
I'll move.
Thank you, Julie.
Second.
Thank you, Sean, for a second. Any discussion?
For the personnel section, it went to L, no?
No.
Okay.
Thank you, though. So, sorry, any discussion then on A and B? No? I just thought it was really nice of the class of '86. It's their 40th year reunion, and so they're stepping up and offering scholarship, 1-year scholarship, but putting it out there, so it's great to have that engagement. And also for the memorial scholarship for the second one, it's also very important and offering to our students that are continuing on.
Just to add to that, if I could.
Yes.
That class 86, one of the finest classes ever to graduate.
They were, weren't they? Yeah, I concur.
Where'd you graduate, Tim?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. And items C and D, contract to health services provided to private schools and other school districts, and budget transfer to food service. Can I get a motion for those, please?
I'll move it.
Thank you, Sean. And a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, David. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. And now to items from the board. Any items from the board? Okay. Julie?
I just wanted to say thank you to Roseanne Bain, who recently joined us for an evening to talk about dignity for all students and bullying in our schools. It was an excellent presentation, as expected, and it was a pretty nice turnout with a lot of questions and a lot of comments, a lot of concerns, so it was very informative. So thank you to all who attended to that, and to Roseanne.
Yeah. And I wanted to thank you and Ray for pulling that together, because I thought it was important. And also, one of the things that came up that night was the difficulty in communication sometimes, in terms of, people would be here and say, well, where do I go for that? And Roseanne was very on top of things and be able to direct people to our website and to find that information. So it's always a challenge. We always have that. Other districts do as well in trying to communicate successfully with the community.
Yes, I'm glad you said that, because she had done her research prior to the presentation, and people were very, where do I go? How do I find this? And she had said she went to our website, so kudos to those who put together our website. Within 2 clicks, she was finding exactly what they were asking for. Mm-hmm. So that was great to hear.
Yeah.
That it was easy to navigate.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So I just have a couple of things. I'll try to make this as fast as possible. National Honor Society last night was wonderful. Ray was there as well. And they had a speaker who was an alumnus from the class of 1990. And I just thought it was really, I really liked his approach because he came up and he said, I failed, I dropped out, I lost, Mayday, Mayday. I failed school, I failed in college, and one of the quotes that I thought was really important, he said, if you drop out of college and fail out of college, it's not a good idea to go home and tell your parents on the weekend your brother is graduating from medical school. But it was important, just the idea of failing and getting up and doing it again. He's now a professor at RIT and has affected so many students out there. So just the idea of not failing as a failure, but failing as a learning, a step in learning. So the retirees that we're going to have on it's June 9th, we're going to have a 4:15 reception for the retirees. And thank you to Jen Cahill, who made the suggestion about reading all the names. So at our next meeting, I'll read all the names of all the retirees, make sure I have them all, so we can do that. And we'll have a time on that meeting on the 9th of June to get together and have a little celebration prior to the meeting that evening. We're going to do an invitation. Diane's going to send an invitation, and we'll put an RSVP on it too, so we can get an idea of numbers relative to the food that we'll prepare, that Matt will prepare. For the board as a collective, this month of May, if you can go to Super Eval and start to fill in and your supporting evidence or anything you have for the super, but also for the self-evaluation. If we can do that, the month of May is the time to do it. So when we come back in June, that's when we'll have our meetings and go over that. So if we can do that, that would be great. And one other little thing for the Oswego County School Boards Association, there was a survey that I sent out. If you can respond to it, a couple have, I know that. But if you can respond, it takes no more than 2 minutes, but it would just help us as far as programming goes. And that's all I have. So we do have a need for executive session, and it will be for, excuse me for 1 second, medical, financial, credit, or employment history of a particular person or corporation or matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person or corporation. And there may be a need for a vote afterwards. Can I get a motion for exec?
I love it.
Thank you, David. Can I get a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Sean. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Excellent. Thank you, everyone.